In a quiet archive above the old Atlantic coast, rain taps against the glass while a wounded stranger arrives with a black memory case in her arms. Inside are songs, names, and a world someone tried to erase. Thank you for being here. If this story touches you, please like, comment, or subscribe. Now, step inside the archive and listen to what Earth refused to forget. Earth refused to delete the last names of Auralis. Marcus Hale did not notice the rain until it began tapping against the upper glass of the archive. The Earth Humanitarian Archive stood on a quiet ridge above the old Atlantic coast, far from the political buildings, the ports, and the bright public places where diplomats like to be seen. At night, it looked less like a center of interstellar importance and more like a library that had grown too large for one planet. Its towers were dark. Its lower halls were warm. Beneath the stone and glass, in cold rooms that never slept, the records of forgotten colonies and ruined worlds waited in silence. Marcus was alone in Restoration Room 7, rebuilding the last census of a mining settlement that had burned out 30 years earlier near Saturn's outer trade line. He had been at it for 5 hours. A careless evacuation order had separated families by work permit instead of household. The official file had called the loss acceptable. Marcus had learned to hate that word. Acceptable meant someone far away had stopped counting. He sat with his sleeves rolled up, a cup of coffee gone cold beside his hand, while 3 broken voice logs played in careful sequence. The first voice was a father. The second was a daughter. The third was static, but the pattern inside the static still held a name if you knew how to listen. Marcus knew how to listen. He was 41 years old, broad-shouldered, with gray beginning at his temples and the steady hands of a man who had spent half his life repairing what violence and bureaucracy had tried to erase. He was not a soldier. He did not wear a uniform. He did not carry a weapon in the archive, except for the small shock baton locked under his desk, and he had never wanted a life that required one. But there were other kinds of battlefields. Some are made of fire and steel. Some are made of missing names. The chime at the door sounded once. Marcus frowned. No one came to Restoration 7 after midnight unless a seal had failed or a witness had arrived. The chime sounded again, lower this time. Not a request, an emergency. He stood, crossed the room, and touched the wall panel. Security feed, he said. The panel showed the archive's west service entrance. Rain moved in silver sheets beneath the lights. A figure stood just inside the outer awning, one hand braced against the wall, the other curled around a black case pressed tight to the chest. The figure was not human. Tall, thin, wrapped in a burned gray coat that hung like wet paper. The face beneath the hood was narrow and pale blue, with dark eyes too large for the skull. One side of the coat was soaked in blood, or it was something close enough to blood that Marcus stopped thinking and started moving. He tapped the emergency line. Dr. Bennett, West Service Entrance. Possible asylum arrival. Injured. Non-human. I am opening sanctuary intake. The answer came in a sleepy voice that sharpened before the second sentence. I am on my way. Do not let them leave. Marcus keyed the entrance open. Cold rain rushed into the small intake chamber as the outer door lifted. The alien staggered forward. The black case slipped. Marcus caught it before it struck the floor. The alien looked at him with sudden fear. Do not open it wrong, she whispered. Her English was thin and careful, but clear. Marcus set the case on the intake table. You are safe inside this building. No, she said. Her hand shook as she pushed the case closer to him. They are not. Marcus glanced at the camera above the door, then back to her. Who are they? The alien's knees buckled. Marcus caught her by the shoulders. The last names, she said. The last songs. The children who still know nothing. Her eyes tried to focus on him and failed. Please, say them first. Dr. Lila Bennett arrived with a medical kit under one arm and her hair pulled back badly. She took one look at the alien and pointed Marcus toward the inner door. Get her into the exam room. She brought a memory case, Marcus said. Then seal it. Marcus did not argue. He lowered the alien onto a med bed, helped Lila cut away the burned coat, then returned to the intake table. The black case was older than most interstellar storage designs. Its corners were cracked. Its outer shell was scarred by heat. It had no visible brand, no current trade registry, and no standard power port. That alone made it dangerous. Unknown devices killed archives. He slid the case into a sealed cradle, cut the room off from external networks, and brought up an isolated reader. The case resisted the first scan. It did not reject him like a military lock. It recoiled like a living thing. Marcus paused. Behind him, in the exam room, the alien gave a low sound of pain. Lila murmured to her, steady and human. Marcus leaned closer to the reader. "Show me what you are," he said softly. The case opened a fraction. A sound came out. Not data tone, not code. Children singing. Their voices were light, uneven, and bright with the fearless confidence of the very young. They sang in a language Marcus did not know. The rhythm was simple enough that he could feel where the claps belonged. A classroom, he thought. A morning song. Then a siren cut across the music. The children stopped. An adult voice spoke quickly. Calm at first, then less calm. A name was called, then another, then too many at once. The file broke apart in a burst of static. Marcus sat very still. On the wall display, the reader translated a fragment of metadata. Auralis Civic Learning Hall. District 7. Morning Registry. Final Evacuation Day. Marcus typed Auralis into the archive's Open Galactic Index. The answer returned in less than a second. Auralis. Mineral Zone. Meridian Compact Administrative Claim. No lawful native population on record. Marcus looked back at the sealed case. No lawful native population, he said. The children's song still trembled in the room like breath on glass. A new alert appeared on the display. External claim received. Zenda. The Meridian Compact. Subject. Recovery of stolen archival property. Marcus read the first lines. They were polite. They were clean. They were full of words like stability, verification, ownership, and unlawful transport. Then the memory case began to delete itself. Not quickly, not with the drama of a burning machine. A small red line appeared across the children's file. The last 3 names in the teacher's roll call dissolved from the transcription before Marcus could catch them. His face hardened. "Raphael," he said into the emergency channel. A man's voice answered almost at once. "If this is about the West Intake Alert, I saw it." "What happened?" "For memory core. Active remote deletion. Unknown structure. Meridian claim already filed." Raphael Quinn was the archive's best network security specialist, and the only person Marcus knew who could wake up angry at a line of code. "Do not connect it to anything," Raphael said. "I know that. I mean, do not even think near it. Get down here." Marcus opened a protected shell and began the first salvage process by hand. The deleting line pressed deeper into the file. The teacher's voice warped. The children's song thinned. Marcus could not understand the words, but he understood the shape of the loss. He locked the file, split the damaged section into fragments, and pushed the fragments into cold storage. The deletion paused. For the first time since the alien had arrived, Marcus let himself breathe. Lila stepped into the room behind him. She is stable enough to talk. Barely. Her name is Sera Vonn. Marcus did not turn away from the case. Ask her what Auralis was. Lila was quiet. Marcus looked at her then. The doctor had seen war refugees, abandoned clones, and plague survivors from colonies that wealthy systems had sealed off and left to die. It took a great deal to make Lila Bennett look shaken. She said. Lila answered. Auralis was her home. The doors to Restoration 7 sealed with a heavy sound. Marcus Hale placed both hands on the table and looked at the case that held a dead world's morning song. Then we start there. By dawn, the rain had stopped, but the archive had not slept. Raphael Quinn arrived with a gray jacket over his sleep shirt and a tablet already streaming diagnostic warnings. He was younger than Marcus by a decade, sharp-eyed, restless, and brilliant in the impatient way of people who saw traps before other people saw doors. He stared at the memory case through the sealed glass. "That thing is not a normal drive," he said. "I noticed." "No, Marcus. I mean, it is not built around storage. It is built around recall. The files are tied to a biological witness pattern." "So, most likely, if we force it open without her, It may protect itself by destroying sections. Marcus looked through the inner window. Sera lay on the med bed with her eyes open. She looked smaller without the burned coat, all thin limbs and fine bones. Lila had wrapped one shoulder and set a translucent brace along her ribs. "Can we preserve what opened already?" Marcus asked. "The children's file?" "Yes. Mostly. 3 names lost. Maybe 4. Marcus said nothing. Raphael's expression softened a little. "We will try. We will recover them." "That is a different sentence." "It is the one I meant." Raphael gave him a short nod and went back to the tablet. Marcus entered the exam room. Sera watched him approach, wary but awake. Her dark eyes moved to the reader visible beyond the glass. "You opened a mourning registry," she said. "A few seconds of it. We stopped the deletion. How many names were lost?" Marcus did not lie. "At least 3. Her face folded inward before she could stop it. Lila reached for her hand, but Sera pulled back, not in anger. "In shame. I carried them across 6 systems," Sera said. "I hid them in funeral shipments and cargo waste. I slept beside coolant lines. I watched 2 other keepers die, so I could bring the core here." Her voice thinned. "And I lost children at your door." Marcus drew a chair beside the bed and sat, not too close. "You did not lose them at my door," he said. "Someone reached into the core to kill them. There's a difference. Not to the dead. Sometimes it matters to the living." Sera turned her face toward him. Marcus spoke carefully. "I need to understand what I am protecting. My world. The Galactic Index says Auralis had no lawful native population." For the first time, anger steadied her. "That is the sentence they used after they took our ports. Before that, we had cities, schools, clinics, courts, and libraries. We had bad weather and old songs and arguments over fishing rights. We had people. Who took it? The Meridian Compact." Raphael, listening through the open doorway, muttered, "Of course." Marcus glanced back. "You know them. Everyone in data security knows them. They do not hack records. They reorganize them until the truth has nowhere to stand." Sera closed her eyes. Marcus waited. When she opened them again, she seemed to have chosen something. "I was an assistant librarian in the central archive of Auralis," she said. "Not important. Not brave. Just there. When the compact arrived, they said they came to help us modernize our registry. They said our land records were not compatible with galactic standards. They said our family names were not legal identifiers. They said our songs were folklore, not cultural proof." She swallowed. Every sentence sounded reasonable. Then her voice changed. "Then our districts became extraction zones. Our schools became worker intake centers. Our dead were counted as relocation losses. Our living were given numbers. When we objected, they told the council there was no recognized population to object." Marcus thought of the index. No lawful native population. The phrase had the clean shine of a knife, washed after use. "What is in the core?" he asked. "Everything we could save. Local registries, birth records, old maps, medical logs, court records, school songs, family trees, evacuation lists, the final statements of district librarians." Her hand curled on the blanket. "And the silent registry." Raphael looked up sharply. Marcus kept his voice even. "What is that?" Sera did not answer right away. Lila said gently, "You do not have to tell us all at once." "Yes," Sera said. "Edo." She looked at Marcus. "When the compact claimed Auralis was empty, not all of us were dead. Many were taken. Workers, children, elders, anyone useful or inconvenient. They were stripped of Auralis names and moved under relocation codes. The silent registry was our attempt to track them before the last archive fell. Living survivors, Marcus said. If the registry survives, they can prove who they are. If it dies, they remain what the compact made them." Her voice broke, but only for one word. "No one." Marcus rose. In the hall outside, alarms began to pulse softly. Not the loud emergency alarm, the legal one. A message from the Meridian Compact filled the wall display. By order of recognized administrative claim, Earth is instructed to preserve, quarantine, and return all archival property unlawfully removed from compact custody. A second message followed. Subject Sera Vonn is to be detained as an unlawful carrier of restricted records. Then a third. Failure to comply may result in formal complaint before the Galactic Council and suspension of Earth's access to interstellar verification networks. Raphael Exalif. They moved fast. Marcus read the messages once. Then he touched the response panel. Archive Sanctuary Protocol, provisional, he said. Witness under medical protection. Memory core under humanitarian preservation. No transfer without Earth review. The system asked for authorization. Marcus placed his palm on the scanner. Lila looked at him. That puts your name on the refusal. I know. Marcus. He turned towards Sera. She was watching him as if she expected him to step away now that the danger had become official. He did not step away. She came to the right door, Marcus said. The first formal pressure came in clean language. Minister Corvin Rusk of the Meridian Compact appeared on the archive's secure channel at 8 in the morning Earth time. He had a narrow face, silver hair, and the calm voice of a man who had never been forced to beg anyone for mercy. Marcus stood in the archive's communication room with Mara Ellison, Earth's diplomatic liaison to the archive, beside him. Mara wore a dark suit and the expression of someone already calculating how much trouble one human archivist could cause before breakfast. Rusk inclined his head. Mr. Hale, Ms. Ellison, I appreciate your quick attention to this regrettable matter. Marcus said nothing. Mara answered, The Earth Humanitarian Archive has received your claim. Good. Then you understand the issue is simple. A fugitive has transported restricted cultural property outside lawful compact. Custody. We request the return of both the carrier and the property. Sera Vonn has requested sanctuary. She is not a refugee. She is a data thief. Marcus spoke then. The first file we opened was a classroom evacuation registry. Rusk blinked once mildly. Unverified material. It contained children. Many false archives use emotional material to create sympathy. 3 names were deleted while your claim arrived. Rusk's polite expression did not change. I cannot speak to technical errors in stolen property. Marcus felt Mara's warning glance without looking at her. Rusk continued. Auralis was a contested administrative zone with no standardized native registry. The compact stabilized it after local collapse. Whatever this individual has told you, she is not a recognized authority. Who recognized the compact's authority? Marcus asked. The Galactic Council's Resource Alignment Board. And who supplied the population data to that board? Rusk smiled faintly. Mr. Hale, I advise you not to confuse archival sentiment with law. Marcus leaned slightly toward the screen. Minister Rusk, I advise you not to confuse a clean record with a true one. Mara shifted beside him, but she did not interrupt. Rusk's eyes cooled. Earth's reputation as a humanitarian system is respected. It would be unfortunate if that reputation became associated with the distribution of forged destabilizing material. The connection ended a moment later. Mara turned to Marcus. You understand he just threatened to paint Earth as a sponsor of fraudulent archives. Yes. You also understand the Council may order a freeze. Yes. And if we lose access to interstellar verification networks, every refugee file we process slows down. Marcus looked through the glass wall toward the restoration wing. He could see Sera sitting upright on the med bed while Lila checked the brace at her ribs. Sera's eyes remained fixed on the sealed room that held her world. If we hand over the core, he said, those files do not slow down. They die. Mara's face tightened. She had been a diplomat long enough to fear consequences and human enough to hate the reason for them. Then give me something I can defend, she said. Not a feeling. Proof. Marcus nodded. We are working on it. For the next 10 hours, the archive became a place of small recoveries. Sera sat beside Marcus in Restoration 7, wrapped in a blanket with a medical monitor clipped to her wrist. Raphael worked behind them, building protective shells and swearing quietly at every Meridian trace he found in the core. Lila came and went with fluids, pain control, and warnings no one obeyed for long enough. The first recovered map showed a district of Auralis built along a river that curved like a silver thread. Sera called it Vey Market. There were awnings in the rain season, she said. Old women sold spice cakes under blue lamps. Children dared each other to jump over the drainage streams. Marcus connected the map to trade records. Meridian had renamed the area extraction Grid 12. The second file was a hospital birth ledger. The third was a set of family songs stored by local teachers, so children from different districts could learn each other's dialects. The fourth was a final note from an elderly librarian who had locked herself inside a district archive, while Meridian officers ordered her to surrender all pre-standard records. Sera translated the old woman's last sentence. "Tell them we were not empty." No one spoke for a long moment. Raphael broke the silence because that was how he survived emotion. "The Corps just gave us a new path." Marcus looked over. "Where?" "Hidden beneath the birth ledger. Not dead records. Transfer codes." Sera went very still. Marcus watched her. "Is this the silent registry?" "Maybe the outer edge. Can we open it?" Sera's fingers gripped the blanket. "Not safely. For the data? Or for you?" She did not answer. Lila stepped closer. "So, the silent registry was built after the first removals," Sera said. "We had names inside memory layers. The compact could scan the core and see songs, maps, and grief. They never looked for living people inside grief." Raphael's voice softened. "That is clever. It was desperate." Marcus studied the path Raphael had found. It pulsed faintly in the reader, waiting for a witness pattern. "What does it require?" Marcus asked. Sera looked at the memory core. "My recall. The day my family gave me the core." Lila's answer was immediate. "No." Sera looked at her. "You do not know what that means. I know your body reacts every time you touch a live layer. I know your pulse goes unstable. I know you are still bleeding internally in a way my equipment does not fully understand. If I do not open it, they remain lost." Marcus turned away from the display. "Sera, listen to me. Not everything has to be paid for in the first day." Her eyes found his. "That is what safe people say." The words landed harder than anger. Marcus accepted them because they were fair. Then he said, "Safe people built this archive because too many unsafe people had nowhere to put the truth. Let me try another way first." Sera looked as if she wanted to believe him and feared what belief might cost. "One day," she said. Marcus nodded. "One day." That night, the story leaked. It did not leak from the archive. Marcus had locked the systems too well for that. It came from Meridian. Karen Vell, one of the most watched galactic broadcasters outside Council space, opened her evening transmission with an image of Earth under storm clouds and a headline that would follow Marcus for days. "Earth harboring false archive linked to Auralis extremist." Marcus watched the broadcast in the staff kitchen with Mara, Raphael, Lila, and 3 exhausted archive assistants. The room smelled of coffee, antiseptic, and rain-damp coats. Karen Vell had a clear voice, beautiful in the way sharp glass was beautiful. Sources within the Meridian Compact report that an illegal memory core has been transported to Earth by a former Auralis record keeper. Compact officials warn that forged cultural archives have been used before to inflame anti-stability sentiment across developing systems. Raphael threw a napkin at the wall screen. "Developing systems. That is rich." Karen continued. "Earth officials have not yet returned the property. The Galactic Council has been asked to review whether the Earth Humanitarian Archive has exceeded its mandate." The screen shifted to an image of Sera taken from some port camera during her escape. She looked frightened, thin, almost criminal because the frame had been chosen to make her look that way. Lila turned the volume down. Sera stood in the kitchen doorway. No one had heard her come in. She stared at the image of herself. "That was after Tovin died," she said. Marcus stepped toward her. "Who was Tovin?" "The keeper before me. He carried the outer maps. He told me to run when the port scanners found us." Her eyes stayed on the screen. "They cut the video before he fell." Mara looked pained. "Sera, we can respond." "With what?" "Another statement." Sera shook her head. "They have statements for everything. They buried a planet in statements." Marcus looked at the wall screen, at Karen Vell's composed face, and at the false calm of the broadcast. Then Grace Holloway, the youngest restoration assistant in the room, spoke from near the coffee machine. "Let them hear the song." Everyone turned. Grace flushed but did not back down. Not the whole archive. Not the registry. Just a first classroom song. The part already authenticated. If they're calling it fake, let people hear what they are calling fake. Mara exhaled. Public release would escalate this. Raphael said, "Everything is escalating already." Lila looked at Marcus. Sera looked at the floor. Marcus asked Sera. She closed her eyes. Those children should not have to perform their death for strangers. No, Marcus said. They should not. He waited. Sera opened her eyes again. But if no one hears them, Meridian gets to call them empty. Marcus nodded once. We release only what you approve. Nothing more. The next morning, Earth heard the children of Auralis sing. The archive released 90 seconds of authenticated audio, with no speech over it, no music added, and no dramatic framing. Just the morning song, the teacher calling names, the siren, and the broken place where names have been erased. For 3 hours, nothing happened. Then Earth began to answer. A school in Nairobi sent a recording of students sitting in silence after listening. A retired nurse in Toronto wrote that the teacher's voice sounded like every evacuation she had ever feared. A small public library in Kansas asked if it could host a listening room. By evening, thousands of private citizens had offered storage space for verified fragments if the archive ever needed distributed preservation. Marcus watched the messages accumulate and felt something move beneath the pressure. Not victory. Not yet. Something older than victory. Witness. Then Raphael burst into Restoration 7 with his tablet in hand. Marcus! What? I found a live ping under the silent registry shell. Sera stood so fast Lila would have objected if she had been there. Raphael put the signal on the room speaker. At first there was only static, then breathing, then a voice, old and cracked, singing badly. The melody was the same as the children's song. Sera made a sound like the air had been struck from her body. That is not an archive recording, Raphael said. It is recent. Station Nerith. Low-band maintenance channel. Sera gripped the edge of the table. Play it again. The old voice sang 2 lines, lost the rhythm, then found it again. Sera whispered name. Talon. Marcus looked at her. Talon Voss, she said. He taught music in the Northern District. He had a scar on his left hand. He used to slow the song for younger children. Raphael's fingers flew over the tablet. Station Nerith records list no Talon Voss. But there's a labor resident tagged Nerith Worker 742. Age unknown. Origin unlisted. Audio profile match is possible if the old Auralis records are accurate. Can we verify him? Marcus asked. Not without the silent registry. Sera turned to the memory core. Lila entered then, saw Sera's face, and understood enough to say, no. Sera did not look at her. He is alive. You do not know that for certain. I know his song. Marcus spoke quietly. Sera, if we open the registry now and it damages you, we may lose you before we understand structure. If we wait, Meridian will move him. That was when the new alert came. Raphael read it first, and all color left his face. Station Nerith just filed a relocation schedule. Several unlisted workers transferred within 12 hours. Marcus stepped to the display. No names, only codes. But one of the codes matched the low-band channel Raphael had found. Sera's voice was steady now. You promised one day, she said. Marcus looked at the timer on the relocation order. Then we make the day count. Opening the silent registry did not look heroic. There were no bright beams and no grand machine rising from the floor. Sera sat in a padded chair with Lila's monitors attached to her temples and wrists. Marcus sat across from her at the restoration table. Raphael controlled the isolation shell. Grace stood ready to transcribe any human-readable fragments before the core could shift again. Sera placed both hands on the memory case. The room lights dimmed. The core recognized her. For a moment, Marcus saw Auralis. Not as a map, not as evidence, as memory. Rain on blue awnings. A narrow library aisle. A woman with silver marks along her cheek, wrapping a young Sera's hands around the black case. A man's voice at the door, saying there was no more time. Shelves shaking. Smoke pressing under the ceiling. Someone screaming Sera's name, not in fear for the core, but in fear for her. So I guess bed. Lila leaned forward, pulse rising. Marcus kept his voice low. Sera, stay with my voice. You're in the archive on Earth. You're not in that room. Her eyes were open but unfocused. My mother said the names were heavier than the core, she whispered. Then let us carry some of them. The core opened. Data flooded the protected shell. Raphael swore and began splitting streams. Grace typed so fast her fingers blurred. Marcus watched for the pattern beneath the noise, the living structure Sera had described. Names appeared, not many at first. Talon Voss, Mira Solon, Aaron Kale. Then more, each paired with a relocation code, a false identity, a last known station, and a broken family tie. Lila said, Sera, enough. Sera shook her head. Tears ran silently along her face. More. The core shuddered. Raphael Chautith, Meridian Trace. They saw the opening. Marcus moved instantly. Cut the outer shell. If I cut it now, we lose the transfer. Cut the outer shell, keep the registry stream, and feed them the decoy. Raphael's fear vanished into focus. On it, Marcus opened the decoy vault he had built the day before. It contained enough false structure to look like the real memory core from a distance, but it was empty enough that nothing living could be harmed. Meridian's intrusion struck it like a predator hitting glass. Director Male Orson appeared only as a signature at first, a clean blade of code pressing into the decoy. Then the signature changed. Raphael read the message embedded in the attack. Return the property. Further damage is your responsibility. Marcus did not answer. He redirected the attack deeper into the false vault and sealed it there. The registry stream stabilized. Sera sagged, but her hand stayed on the core. Marcus, Grace said, voice shaking. On her screen was a file fragment attached to Mira Solon. Medical evacuation assistant. Auralis Central Clinic. Last verified family contact. Daughter, age 5, removed during intake. The daughter's relocation code, linked to Aaron Kale. Sera saw it. She is his mother, Sera whispered. He does not know. The room went quiet except for the monitors and the rain beginning again on the glass. Marcus saved the link in 3 separate vaults. Then the lights flickered. Raphael looked up from his tablet. Council channel. Emergency order. Mara's voice came through the intercom, strained. Marcus, you need to come upstairs. Envoy Thessa Nor appeared not on a public screen, but in the archive's formal chamber, projected at life-size in a ring of pale light. She was tall, composed, and old in a way that did not show in wrinkles, but in patience. Her species had served the Galactic Council for generations. Her voice carried the weight of procedure. Mr. Hale, she said, the Council has received conflicting claims regarding the Auralis material. Until verification is complete, all restoration, duplication, and distribution must stop. Marcus stood at the center of the chamber. Mara stood beside him. Behind the glass, he knew Sera was watching from a medical chair, too weak to stand and too proud to lie down. If we stop, Marcus said, the Meridian deletion protocols continue. Thessa Nor's expression did not change. Then the core must be placed in neutral stasis. It is a memory core tied to a living witness. Neutral stasis could collapse. Active layers. That is unconfirmed. So is Meridian's claim of ownership, which is why a freeze is necessary. Marcus felt the old anger in his chest, but he kept it cold. Heat made mistakes. Envoy Nor, the freeze you are ordering is not neutral. It protects the party with time to wait. Sera Vonn does not have time. The survivors in the registry do not have time. The children being deleted from those files do not have time. Your concern is noted. That phrase has buried a lot of people. Mara touched his arm in warning. Thessa's eyes narrowed slightly. Mr. Hale, you are not authorized to determine galactic truth by personal conviction. No, Marcus said. I determine preservation risk. That is my job, and I am telling you the record is being murdered while you ask it to hold still. For the first time, something moved behind Thessa Nor's diplomatic mask. But the mask returned. The order stands. If Earth violates the freeze, the archive may lose recognized access to interstellar verification networks pending review. The projection vanished. The chamber seemed colder after she left. Mara turned to Marcus. That is not a warning anymore. I know. If you break the freeze, this is not just your job. Refugee cases across Earth could be delayed. The archive could be isolated. Marcus looked through the glass. Sera's eyes met his from the far room. He thought of the morning song, of Talon Voss singing through static on Station Nerith, of Mira Solon and a child who did not know her name, of every file he had ever restored after someone powerful decided another person's existence was inconvenient. If we obey, he said, what does our access preserve? Mara had no answer. The siege began without a shot. Meridian's retrieval team landed at the outer gate under legal escort, wearing white coats instead of armor. That made them worse. Soldiers admitted they had come for force. These people had come for paperwork. Commander Adrian Pike met them outside the main doors with Earth security officers behind him. Pike was a compact man with a soldier's posture and a librarian's respect for quiet. He had once told Marcus that guarding an archive was harder than guarding an embassy because embassies mostly held people who expected danger. Archives held the dead, who could not duck. The retrieval team presented a claim order. Pike read it slowly in the rain. Then he said, no entry without Earth warrant. The lead retriever smiled. This is a recognized compact property action. Then you should have brought a recognized Earth warrant. Inside, Marcus heard the exchange through the security feed and allowed himself one brief breath of gratitude. Then Raphael said, we have a bigger problem. On the main display, the memory core had split into two unstable branches. The first held the cultural body of Auralis. Songs, maps, birth records, family lines, oral histories. The second held the proof structure, Meridian seizure logs, transfer codes, the silent registry, the legal trail that could prove living survivors had been stripped of identity. A red warning pulsed between them. Core integrity failure. Choose primary preservation branch. Grace stared at the words. Choose. Raphael's voice was flat. Mail Orson's deletion protocol. He cannot destroy everything through our shell, so he is forcing the core to collapse around one branch. Lila looked at Sera. What does that mean? Sera already knew. It means we save the soul or the case. No, Marcus said. Raphael turned to him. Marcus. No, the core architecture is doing it now. If we do not select a branch, both degrade. Marcus stepped close to the display. Cultural branch, the memory of Auralis as a people. Proof branch, the evidence that could save the living. It was the kind of choice systems loved to create for victims. Choose your dead or your living. Choose your grief or your future. Choose which part of yourself deserves to survive. Sera rose from a chair. Lila tried to stop her, but she pulled free. Save the proof, Sera said. Marcus turned. Sera, save the living. The cultural branch holds your language maps, your family records, the children's song. The living can sing badly. Her mouth trembled. The dead cannot be freed from Station Nerith. Marcus looked at her and saw the cost of the words. Then another voice came from the doorway. Grace Holloway, why are we accepting the choice? Everyone looked at her. Grace swallowed. The core has to choose because it is one body. But Earth offered distributed storage. We have millions of volunteers approved for verified fragments. Not for sensitive proof, but for cultural memory. Raphael stared at her. Then Marcus saw it. Split the branches by trust level, he said. Cultural memory to civilian sanctuary nodes. Proof branch stays in cold archive. Registry fragments in sealed legal vaults. Raphael was already moving. That violates the council freeze in every possible direction. Yes. Mara's voice came over the intercom. She had been listening. Marcus, if you do this, I cannot protect you from the first consequences. Protect Suha. A pause. Then Mara said, I can do that. Marcus turned to Sera. We could try to save both. But I need the last key. Lila stepped between them. No, she cannot survive another full recall. Sera looked at Marcus. What will it take? He answered honestly. The core needs the original trust phrase from the moment it was created. Not just the words. The memory behind them. Sera closed her eyes. Outside, Pike's voice came over the security feed. You are not authorized to enter. The retrieval team leader replied. Then Earth is obstructing lawful recovery. Inside, the red warning deepened. Core integrity failure approaching. Sera opened her eyes. My mother gave me the core in the central library, she said. She told me something. I try not to remember her face, because if I remembered it too clearly, I would stop running. Marcus's throat tightened. Sera, if there's another way, I will take it. There is not. Lila's voice was low. You may lose that memory. Sera nodded. If I keep only her face and lose everyone she asked me to carry, then I have misunderstood her. She sat at the table again. Marcus crouched in front of her so she could see him, not the machines. Listen to me, he said. You are on Earth. You are in the Earth Humanitarian Archive. My name is Marcus Hale. Lila is behind you. Raphael is at the console. You are not alone in that library anymore. Sera held the core. Then carry it with me, she whispered. The memory opened like a wound. This time the whole room felt it. The central library of Auralis burned in blue-gray smoke. Shelves shook as distant blasts rolled under the floor. Sera was younger, almost a child, though her hands were already those of someone trained to handle old things gently. Her mother stood before her with silver marks on her cheeks and blood on one sleeve. She pressed the memory core into Sera's arms. Do not save the building, her mother said in Auralis, and the core translated the meaning through grief. Save the names. Buildings can be rebuilt by strangers. Names must be carried by those who love them. A man shouted from the doorway. The ceiling cracked. Sera screamed because she understood she was being told to leave them. Her mother held her face. Run until someone opens a door. The memory tore. Sera confused. Lila shouted her name. Marcus caught Sera before she fell from the chair, one arm around her shoulders, one hand steadying the core against the table. Raphael, he called. He accepted, Raphael said, voice shaking. Branches unlocked. Marcus lifted his head. Grace, open the sanctuary nodes. Opening. Mara, notify Earth Oversight that I am violating the freeze under humanitarian preservation emergency. Mara's answer came through the room. Steady now. Already sent. Raphael, cultural branch first. Strip personal trauma markers. Send only verified public memory. Sending. On the display, the children's song broke apart into thousands of fragments. Not destroyed now. Carried. Across Earth, in library basements, school servers, hospital archives, personal memory vaults, and public preservation nodes, tiny pieces of Auralis found shelter. Maps followed. Recipes. Weather records. Classroom songs. Oral histories. Names of streets. Names of teachers. Names of the dead. The proof branch went cold and deep, sealed under Marcus's authority and Mara's legal shield. The silent registry resisted. Male Orson struck again. Raphael Gerst. He is hitting the registry with a false merge. If it lands, the survivor list becomes legally contaminated. Cut him off. I need an anchor. Marcus looked at the screen. The low-band channel from station Nerith still flickered in the corner. Talon Voss's broken song. Use the live signal, Marcus said. Raphael Sterth. As identity anchor, he is alive. His voice matches the cultural record and the registry. Use him. If the signal drops, we lose the path. Then do it before they move him. Raphael linked the old man's voice to the silent registry. For one suspended moment, everything depended on a weak signal from a labor station that no one in power had cared to name. Talon Voss sang the wrong note. The registry accepted him anyway. Names poured through. Mira Solon, Aaron Kale, 79 others from Station Nerith, 200 from Voss Reach, more from smaller locations. Not all, not enough, but enough to prove the lie. Outside, the retrieval team forced the first security lock. Pike's voice came over the feed. Marcus, they're inside the outer hall. Marcus did not look away from the registry. Seal the inner archive. They will claim hostile obstruction. They came to take the dead. Pike gave a grim little laugh. Understood. The inner doors sealed. Raphael said, registry preserved. Proof branch preserved. Cultural branch distributed. Marcus, we did it. Then Sera stopped breathing. For 3 minutes, the battle for Auralis became a battle for one body. Lila pushed Marcus aside and worked with terrible calm. Sera lay on the floor beside the table, her hands still curled as if around the core. The monitor screamed. Grace stood with both hands over her mouth. Raphael kept working because the system still needed him, but tears ran down his face without his permission. Marcus knelt near Sera's feet, unable to help, unable to leave. He had saved her world and might have killed her. That was the truth no heroic sentence could soften. Lila pressed a device against Sera's chest and spoke through clenched teeth. Come back. You did not cross 6 systems to die on my floor. Sera's body arched. The monitor caught a rhythm. Weak, uneven, alive. Marcus bowed his head. On the wall display, a new public feed opened without permission. Karen Vell's network had gone live outside the archive. Her voice rang through the hall, no longer smooth. Sources confirm that Earth has violated the Council freeze and distributed portions of the disputed Auralis archive across civilian preservation nodes. Meridian officials call this an act of reckless information warfare. Then the feed changed. Someone had sent Karen Vell the verified before and after files. Auralis district names beside Meridian extraction numbers. Birth records beside relocation codes. The morning song beside station Nerith Worker 742. Karen fell silent on air. For the first time since Marcus had seen her, she looked unsure. Then she said, very quietly, "We are also receiving an authenticated live match from Station Nerith. The worker identified by Meridian as Resident 742 appears to match the Auralis record of Talon Voss, a music teacher declared non-existent under compact filings." Raphael looked up. She's saying his name. The words moved through the archive like dawn. She's saying his name. The first survivors arrived on a gray morning with low clouds and a wind that smelled of the sea. There were only 11 in the first group. That was all Earth could extract quickly from Station Nerith before Meridian lawyers wrapped the rest in delay. 11 was not enough. 11 was everything. They came through the archive's south entrance, not the west service door where Sera had nearly collapsed. Marcus had insisted on that. No one from Auralis would enter Earth like contraband again. Talon Voss came first in a mobility chair, thin as folded paper, one hand marked by an old scar across the knuckles. He looked around the hall with suspicion that had outlived every reason to trust. Behind him walked Mira Solin, older than her recovered file, her face controlled too tightly. Beside her was Aaron Hale, not a small child anymore, but a boy old enough to know when adults were hiding fear from him. Sera stood beside Marcus at the entrance to the new sanctuary room. She was weak, one hand resting on a cane Lila had forced on her, but she stood. When Talon saw her, his eyes narrowed. Sera spoke in Auralis. Marcus did not understand the words, but he knew the shape of a greeting that had survived too much distance. Talon stared. Then, in a broken voice, he sang the first line of the morning song. Sera answered with the second. The old man began to cry. Mira Solin did not cry at first. She walked to the central display where Marcus had restored the hospital ledger. Her name appeared there in the old Auralis script and in English beneath it. Mira Solin, medical evacuation assistant. Daughter. Aaron. The boy frowned. That is my name, he said. Mira looked at him as if she had been waiting years to be struck by that sentence. No, she whispered. It is mine too. Marcus stepped back. This part did not belong to him. Lila guided Mira and Aaron to a private alcove where the linked records could be shown gently. Grace brought water. Raphael pretended to adjust the display so no one would see him wiping his eyes. In the center of the room, the memory core rested on a low stand. Not locked away, not hidden, protected. Around it, the restored map of Auralis glowed across the walls. Not as a claim to land. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way survivors dreamed. But as proof that a place had existed before someone renamed it for minerals. Streets, rivers, clinics, libraries, homes, names. Marcus stood near the registry station. His official access was still suspended, so Grace had to approve each recovery action. She did it with exaggerated seriousness, and Marcus let her. Some consequences were worth carrying. Some were even good for younger archivists to see. Sera came to stand beside him. "Do you remember her?" Marcus asked quietly. Sera looked at the core. "Not clearly," she said. He knew who she meant. Her mother. "I remember her hands," Sera said. "I remember the weight of the core. I remember that she told me to run." A long breath moved through her. Her face is less clear now. Marcus had no comfort large enough. "I am sorry." Sera looked around the room. Talon was humming. Mira and Aaron sat close together in the alcove. On the wall, the names of recovered Auralis families glowed one by one as the system rebuilt their links. "My mother said names must be carried by those who love them," Sera said. "I thought that meant me." "It did. Now it means more than me." Marcus looked at the map, at the people moving beneath its light, and at the Earth staff who had turned a building into a shelter not by saying yes once, but by continuing to say yes after the cost arrived. "Yes," he said, "it does." Later, when the formal dedication began, Mara asked Marcus if he wanted to speak. He said no. Sera spoke instead. Not long. Not like a politician. Not like a symbol. She stood beside the memory core in the room Earth had given her and looked at the first survivors of Auralis, the human archivists, the doctors, the security officers, and the school children from a local class who had been invited because they had learned the morning song. "My world is not alive the way it was," Sera said. "I will not pretend that a room can replace a sky. I will not pretend that a map can replace a home." The room was silent. But before I came here, Auralis was being made empty. Not only destroyed, emptied, names removed, songs sealed. Children turned into worker numbers. Elders turned into relocation codes. The dead were denied memory, and the living were denied proof. She touched the core. Earth did not give us back everything. No world can do that. But Earth gave us a door. Earth gave us witnesses. Earth gave us enough truth that we can stand inside it and say we were here. Her voice trembled once, then steadied. "We are here." No one applauded at first. It was not that kind of moment. Then Talon Voss began to sing. His voice was cracked, uncertain, and old. He missed the second note the same way he had missed it on the low-band signal from Station Nerith. Sera joined him. Then Aaron, stumbling over words he had only just learned. Then the Earth children, careful and imperfect. Marcus stood at the back of the room and listened. The pronunciation was not perfect. The rhythm wandered. Half the children came in too early. Talon laughed through his tears and slowed them with one lifted hand. The old teacher returning for a moment through the ruins of the years. Sera smiled. The song had begun as a file. Then it had become evidence. Then it had become a risk. Now, it was a living sound in a room on Earth, carried by voices that had no obligation to hold it, and chose to hold it anyway. Marcus felt Mara step beside him. "Your suspension will probably last a while," she said. "I assumed. You may lose your senior clearance. I assumed that too. You may have saved this archive and damaged your career in the same week." Marcus watched Aaron Hale find a rhythm. The boy looked toward Mira as he sang, and she covered her mouth with both hands. "I've spent my career preserving names," Marcus said. "This week I got to hand some back." Mara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Earth Oversight has approved the Auralis Sanctuary Wing for permanent status." Marcus closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Sera was lowering the memory core into its cradle. She did not hold it like a coffin anymore. She set it down like something planted. Beyond the glass, rain began again over the old Atlantic coast. It slid down the windows in bright threads, and the map of Auralis shone through it. Rivers over rain, names over night. The galaxy had called the planet empty. The Compact had called its people unlawful. The Council had called the truth unverified. But in that room, a teacher's song passed from an old alien voice to a human child's careful one, and the lie lost one more place to stand. Marcus Hale stood at the back, tired, disgraced in some official records, and steadier than he had ever felt. Earth had not saved Auralis because it was easy. Earth had not opened the door because the cost was small. Earth had opened it because Sera Vonn had reached the last door in the galaxy with a dead world's names in her arms, and someone had been there to unlock it. And now, when the song rose again, It did not sound like an archive playing the past. It sounded like a people being called back by name. The last memory of Auralis did not end as a file in a locked machine. It became a room on Earth. It became a song in a child's voice. It became names spoken aloud by people who had been told for too many years that they had none. Marcus Hale never called himself a hero. Sera Vonn never asked the galaxy to kneel. They only asked for one thing, that the forgotten would not be erased again. And in the end, Earth answered in the only way that mattered. Not with a speech, not with a threat, but with an open door, a safe room, and a promise that even the smallest name was worth protecting. Because sometimes humanity is not remembered for the wars it wins. Sometimes humanity is remembered for the people it refuses to leave behind. If this story stayed with you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who enjoys emotional science fiction, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. You can also leave a comment below. Tell us which name from Auralis you would have wanted to hear spoken again. Thank you for listening. Until the next story, may you always remember this. A world is not truly gone while someone still carries its name.